The African Renaissance. The concept that the African people and nation shall overcome the current challenges confronting the continent and achieve cultural, scientific, and economic renewal is here, with young men and women taking the lead. Some call them the new school heroes. We call them under 40 CEOs.
In her journey to contribute to the education sector in Nigeria beyond the school setting, Folawe joined the Association of Private Educators in Nigeria in 2013 as coordinator to seek a platform that would enable her to improve the quality of education for marginalized children. After 2 months at APEN, she was promoted to Executive Secretary, a position in which she planned and led several teacher training workshops and professional development programs for educators and cultivated relationships with key government and education stakeholders. During her tenure at APEN, Folawe continued to develop her leadership skills through her participation in leading change through education systems at Harvard Graduate School of Education. So I see you're passionate about not just getting other people educated, but also educating yourself from Babcock University to University of Westminster to the Montessori School. And I see you went to Harvard as well.
Oh.
So what did you learn at Harvard that you hadn't learned in all of those other institutions?
It was a professional program that I took at Harvard, and it was an online program. And what I learned from that program prepared me for this job and this role that I'm now in. And it was a program on leading change in education systems. And it was a very practical course where we dissected case studies, like we looked at systems across the world that were working and what made it work. And I think a lot of that I was able to bring into sort of like starting and setting up Teach for Nigeria. And then also like just the opportunity to sort of meet other people who are already working in this space and doing work in different countries. I think that also, the experience of being able to share experience and share knowledge, that also really helped on being part of that program. So
tell me about the impact that Teach for Nigeria has recorded thus far, under the, if I can call it the CEO-ship of your predecessor, and then under your...
Teach for Nigeria really is a non-profit organization working towards developing a movement of leaders who are going to fight educational inequity. And so for us at Teach for Nigeria, we believe that the challenges facing educational inequity is systemic and complex. And there is no way a single solution will solve it. And so we also understand that there is an immediate issue, which is that kids who are going to high-need schools or underserved schools are not learning anything at all. But then we also know that there's a bigger issue, which is very complex. And the only way that we're going to solve it is through leadership, right? So at Teach for Nigeria, we recognize that, okay, first, we need to get our brightest minds, our most outstanding, passionate young Nigerians who are going to go into the classrooms and teach these kids for 2 years, fully committed to teaching over the 2 years, focused on improving learning outcomes, focused on improving attitudes, aspirations, mindsets in the classrooms where they find themselves. But post 2 years, the idea is also to expose them to the fundamental issues that are hindering quality education for Nigeria's most marginalized kids. And so what happens is when they go into the classrooms and they, sort of immerse themselves in the communities where they find themselves teaching, they're able to have a deeper understanding of what is hindering quality education for the kids that they're teaching. Post 2 years, the vision is that these guys, because of the passion, because of, the first-hand experience, wherever they find themselves, they then begin to think of solutions to address this, fundamental, complex, systemic issues. And so at Teach for Nigeria, what we envision 10, 15, 20 years from now is that the alumni who have gone through this program, they become the advocates for equitable education in Nigeria. They become the sort of leaders that we would find at the Ministry of Education. We become the leaders that we'll find at policy levels who are driving and pushing policies to promote equitable education for all children in the country. We hope that we'll see them who, as doctors or work in the healthcare system, who are focusing on why it's important to address nutrition or address, healthcare services for kids, who come from poor or less privileged backgrounds. And so the idea is, how do we create a critical mass of this talented, outstanding, committed leaders who are going to lead us towards the education system that we desire in our country. And, again, I say to people, there's nowhere in the world where any systemic issue has been solved by anything other than a critical mass of leaders, like-minded leaders, who are vision aligned and working towards the same goal. So that's what we do. That's what Teach for Nigeria is about. And we've been on this journey for a little over 2 years now. Our first cohort of fellows, as we call them, were placed in schools in 2017 across 2 states. So we have fellows in Lagos State and we have fellows in Ogun State as well. And this year we're about to expand to the northern region, and with an additional set of over 100 fellows. So far, with the work that we've done, I can say, for example, in Ogun State, we've recorded tremendous impact. And so in Ogun State, for example, I was recently in a meeting with the government, and so SUBEB is the State Universal Basic Education Board, and the chair of SUBEB in Ogun State said to me, "We've seen what is happening in your classroom." So our fellows are deploying 21st century teaching methodologies. And so he said to me, "We've seen what is happening in your classroom. We've seen how your fellows are enabling collaboration and how they're improving learning outcomes." And so we've taken there's a way that they arrange their classrooms. And so we've taken that and we've asked that Ogun State adapts that across all their primary schools in the state. That was one. The second one was a meeting with one of the principals in one of the schools that we're in. And the principal said to myself and also to some of her colleagues that the Teach for Nigeria fellows are not only teaching in my classrooms, they're impacting beyond the classrooms and even our schools. And in fact, so far, she says, they're supporting my own leadership. And if they withdrew them from my school, I will resign. And that was what this lady said. And so we're seeing improvement, just not, for example, like in some of our classrooms, we're seeing how the kids in the Teach for Nigeria classroom are more confident. So you can tell the difference between a Teach for Nigeria classroom and a non-Teach for Nigeria classroom. The kids, you're able to engage them, although their English is not at the place where it needs to be yet, or they're not able to fully engage you, you can see that they're willing to answer your questions. They're not as timid as they used to be. And these are some of the things that we're already recording. And it's only been a full year that our fellows have used in teaching in the classrooms. And these are just some of it. I think beyond the classroom activities and school activities, the idea of having a Teach for Nigeria fellow, as I mentioned, is beyond just teaching, but it's also leadership. And so you have some of them who have set up libraries in the schools where they're in because they realize how the kids do not have access to improving their literacy, and that's a big issue in the schools. And so they've gone and set up libraries with their own money, with their own resources. They've gone and raised funds, and they've done this. We have one of the classrooms that our fellow was in that didn't have adequate furniture. And so the kids will sit on the floor, and he remembered that one day he just went to the plank market with some of the kids, and they bought planks and bought nails, and they went back to the school and they built benches together and built tables, and the kids now have furniture. We have another one where the fellow in the school realized that apparently it was a pattern across the school, that a lot of the girls were being sexually abused, and that a lot of them also didn't have any knowledge of like the developmental stages. And so some of them were in school and they were on their menstrual period and didn't know what was happening. And so they realized that the girls would be timid whenever that was happening, or they would sit in one corner and, not engage as they should. And so she started this project where she started educating girls, and she was also providing them with sanitary towels, 3 per term. And so now she's looking to partner with a non-profit organization where they're going to be providing plastic menstrual cups for these girls. And so the idea is there's so much that needs to happen for education to for education to be quality and excellent for Nigeria's most marginalized. And there are lots of factors. At Teach for Nigeria, we call it the jigsaw puzzle. And so what we are working towards and the impact that we're hoping to achieve is that our fellows will begin to identify all of these pieces to the puzzle. And that now and beyond the 2 years of their program, they begin to think about how they will strategically, for the rest of their lives, focus on addressing the different pieces that are hindering quality education for majority of our kids.
And well done again.
Thank you.
All right, so you're also the co-founder of Swart Talks. What was the setup to do?
It's short, it's Swart Talks, but it means stories worth telling. Like, we needed to inspire people. There were people who had stories that were worth sharing, or, you know, people needed to be inspired. So the idea was, how do we inspire the young generation? And so basically what we do with that is to invite people who have, you know, succeeded in their different careers, or people who have done things, you know, differently, and bring them to share their stories. Successfully had over 7 meetings or 7 shows, and it's been very well attended by, you know, students, by entrepreneurs, and by corporate professionals as well. So
tell me, how has travel and interacting with different cultures, you know, added value to you and shaped your person?
I'd say traveling has played a huge impact in shaping me personally, and also like professionally. A lot of ideas that I get. So for example, I was in Haiti early on this year. And I remember before going to Haiti, like everyone I was saying to that I was going to Haiti was like, what Haiti? Like, you have to be careful, like voodoo, etc. and this. And, you know, and I went to Haiti, and it's been one of the most useful travel experiences that I've had. So I went and visited Teach for Haiti, but also like just went and, you know, explored and visited and sort of like learned about the culture. And I remember that every average Haitian that I met had such deep sense of culture. There was a sense of pride that sort of bound them together as Haitians. So whether you were meeting someone who was just like a bus conductor or a driver, you know, or a professional, there was just this, you know, collective sense of identity that they all had. And I think the second thing that I took from Haiti as well was just the way the Teach for Haiti worked, where they also have existing teachers apply to join the program. And it's this belief that to truly transform community, you needed to look inward and push forward. And so, you know, it started making me think, how do we find those people in our own communities as well to join us in this movement, to also help to push forward their own community? And so for me, that was one. I mean, India, as like I mentioned, played also a huge role in just really convincing me about the possibilities of this work. I'd seen, you know, just what was happening with the alumni of Teach for India, and I just couldn't stop envisioning how that could, you know, work in Nigeria as well. And several other countries that I visited. And I think also just being part of the Teach for All network, as I mentioned, has really allowed for us to engage with a much more broader network of people who are all doing the same work. And so there's constantly something to learn from, and also even from the much more advanced partners and, you know, advanced entrepreneurs in their different programs. There's always available resources and tools that you can access and tap into, and so you don't need to reinvent the wheel. And I think that has really helped to shape, you know, my person and just the work that I'm doing and now.
Amazing. All right, so you were named Avance Media's 100 most influential, you know, you made the list of 100 most influential young Nigerians. And you also named in the Leading Ladies Africa, Why Nigeria's list of 100 most inspiring women in Nigeria for 2018. So what do these nods, accolades, awards, recognitions, what do they truly mean to you?
A lot of times, like, I don't do well with
accolades.
with accolades, yes. But then I think what it does is that it shows that, you know, truly, you know, like the work we're doing is being appreciated. And I don't take it for myself, because I think there's an entire, like, there's an entire village behind, you know, the successes that Teach for Nigeria and myself have recorded, you know, in the past years. And, you know, I think that it's on behalf, we take it as a team, we take it as, you know, we're definitely doing something that is contributing to social development, and we're just thankful that our work is being appreciated. And I think that's how I really take it. I don't take it personally. I take it as a team, and I take it with my team.
All right.
This is Under 40 CEOs.
Folawe may not do too well with accolades, but she really does deserve it. The path to recognition, growth, and impact for most business leaders is usually not a smooth one, and we believe Folawe, like most of her peers, must have had a fair share of these. So while on the CEO journey, what are those key challenges that you've had to overcome to make the strides you've made so far?
I think one of the biggest challenges would be, how best to manage people. And I'll say manage people in the sense that just learning, I feel like on this journey, I've learned how to truly manage people, manage people's egos, learn how to, because, 60% of it is like technical, but 40% is like relationships, if not more. And there's an art and science to managing relationships. And so I think one of the things that, I sort of like maybe, that was a bit challenging for me in the early stages was just like dealing with people, managing stakeholders, and I think I learned very quickly. The second thing would be fundraising. Fundraising really has been a huge challenge. Like Nigeria, and I'm sure we all know this, and Africa generally, like the culture of giving back is not the way, like people don't really give to non-profit organizations, and people do their own little givings to relatives. Like it's much more direct than to like non-profits, and the way that this work is set up, like we need a lot of funding for it to be truly successful and sustainable. And so fundraising also will be my second challenge. And I think the third one really is just finding talent. Like Nigeria is a place where it's just like, yes, people have gotten degrees and people have masters and PhDs, but does it really translate to being able to think critically or problem solve? And, so again, it's been just finding the right people to join the team. And, from what I've learned, like I just take my time with staffing and with finding people, and I don't find people based on the degrees. I find people who buy into my vision, who are committed, who are passionate. And so there are questions and conversations that I have to truly determine if this person is a fit to join. And so I'd say those are like the challenges that I've had to deal with.
All right, so tell me about your leadership style.
I feel like I talk about this a lot, and I say to my colleagues, and it's really leadership by example. I would not ask my team or any of my colleagues to do what I wouldn't do, and they know that. And so for everything that they're required to do, they know that I will go above and beyond and get it done. And it's worked for me.
Tell me about your failures and failings as a leader.
I will say that my biggest failure must be a relationship that, I didn't manage properly. I mean, a phone call could have maybe, protected or salvaged the relationship, but I didn't know better then. It's a relationship with someone that could have been a big champion for the work that I'm doing. And so I would say that not being able to have managed that relationship, so far has been my biggest failure.
All right, so tell me, what are those key skill sets? Still on the subject of managing people, does a CEO need to acquire to manage people? You
need to be a good listener. You need to be, it's not about like being a leader is not about the title. It's not about, it's not about you really. It's about how to get the best out of everyone on your team. And you shouldn't expect that everybody who is on your team will be the same. I mean, there's a reason why everybody is created differently. And being a good leader is how do you identify the different strengths and harness it, to help drive the vision of the organization. And so you have to be a good listener, a good observer. You need to look beyond, what you feel is normal or what you feel is the right way of how you've known how to do things. And I think those two skills are very important and critical to your success as being a CEO or being a leader.
What values are important to you and your firm?
I think our biggest one is our sense of possibility. Like nothing is impossible to teach for Nigeria. And that's one. And the second one will be integrity, respect, and then also innovation. Like how do we think creatively to solve the challenges that we are facing as an organization? And how do we pass on these values to our fellows, to our students, to our communities where we're working? And I'll say those four are like the biggest for our organization and for me.
All right. Biggest letdown. The biggest letdown you've experienced in your career so far?
I think my biggest letdown was, so I'd finished, sort of like a partnership. I'd had a verbal agreement with some organization. And this organization had committed to funding a substantial aspect of my work, of our program. And, we had gone out and sort of like put them on our marketing materials. We had announced them as a partner. And, the day of the event came, so it was going to be at our launch ceremony. And the day of the event came, and I didn't see a sign of them. I phoned everyone that I had contact with within this organization. And either they weren't picking up my calls or they were texting me, I can't talk now, I'll call you back. But they didn't show up. And I didn't see them at the event, and they didn't give me the funding that was required. Wow. And this was at the point, it was at the point where Teach for Nigeria was only just launching. But I think it was also a lesson for me. It was really, you don't put all your eggs in one basket. And I learned from just still going on with my plan, even if somebody had promised me heaven and earth, like still ensure that you always have a plan B, a plan C, a plan D. And so now with the team, they know, so we have a plan B to Z, just so that if anyone fails, we would always be able to, find another opportunity or another person, another plan. And that's the lesson I took from there, but it was a huge letdown, and it's the biggest letdown so far. I just couldn't believe it.
This is Under 40 CEOs.
Folawe and her team have a deep sense of possibility, and even the letdowns and pitfalls do not hold her or her team back. With the strides Folawe has made this far, we can only wonder if she really does have time to let her hair down and enjoy life. I seek to find out a few of her lifestyle choices.
All right, so I have a few quick fire questions for you. What do you love to eat?
Beans. I'm loving beans.
So what's your favorite car to drive?
But really, it's really anything that can move me from point A to B. Nice interior, good sound. But then I don't really know brands or the names. But anything that is just sufficient and also that saves fuel. Okay. So I don't want to be paying, too much on buying fuel. So energy saving as well.
So what other CEOs do you currently look up to?
I have respect for all women who have been able to successfully start up an organization and build a credible and sustainable organization. So all the women that have led startups and who have, tangible success in leading this, I have respect for them, and those are the people that I look up to.
How would you describe your fashion style?
I love to wear my adire, my Ankara, and, and I feel like that's what I'm known for now, and I just really like to wear African prints.
All right, so what's your favorite travel destination?
It has to be Bali, Indonesia. Yes.
Your favorite book of all time?
It has to be Discovery of the Child by Mariam Montessori. She inspired me a great deal, and that book means a lot to me.
And what book are you reading right now?
So I'm reading Love Doesn't Win Elections.
So lastly, I'd like to know, Folawe, what makes you happy?
Plant, and family time, spending good quality time with my family, and then also having great conversations with friends and people that I love.
Thank you for coming on Under 40 CEOs.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed our conversation. Hi, my name is Folawe Omikunle, and you too can be an Under 40 CEO.
This is Under 40 CEOs.